Before diving into the video, did you know that over 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed? Your one like and one subscribe means the absolute world to this channel and helps us keep going. Hit those buttons real quick and let's get into the video. Chapter 1. An offer I couldn't refuse. At the party, the campus belle, fair-skinned and stunning, suddenly confessed her feelings to me. Just as I stood there dumbfounded, a stream of floating comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. Don't flatter yourself. Why would the campus belle ever be interested in you? It's only because you've gotten too close to the heroine. The male lead felt threatened, so he sent his childhood friend, the supporting girl, to seduce you. I stared at the campus belle's slender waist, perky butt, and long legs, and the tears of my lack of restraint flowed from the corner of my mouth. Thank you, male lead. Thank you, my generous benefactor, for gifting me this succubus girlfriend. I accepted Serena's confession without hesitation. A stiff smile appeared on Serena's beautiful, aloof face as she said, "Then we're boyfriend and girlfriend now. From now on, stay away from your Chloe. I don't like you getting too close to other women." No problem. No problem at all. I agreed eagerly, my large hands already resting impatiently on Serena's shoulders. A rush of blood surged through me. Damn, she felt incredible. The floating comments were stunned. What are you doing? It's bad enough that you didn't reject her, but you're already putting your hands on her? Hands off. Our cool and aloof supporting girl belongs to us readers. Art, I'm furious. How can the supporting guy be so shameless? Shameless? This is called the brave get to enjoy the world first. Normally, all I could do was watch thirst trap dance videos online, swallow my drool, and secretly vow that one day I would date a woman that gorgeous. Now that one had delivered herself right to my doorstep, how could I not enjoy it? Serena stared in disbelief at the hand resting on her shoulder. Her body stiffened slightly as she asked, "Alex, what are you doing?" With a perfectly serious expression, I said, "People say your collarbones are deep enough to hold water. I'm measuring how deep they are." Two faint blushes spread across Serena's fair cheeks. "Stop measuring. They can't hold any." Maintaining a solemn expression, I said, "Really? I'm an honest man, so don't lie to me. They feel pretty deep." Serena grabbed my wrist. She was surprisingly strong. "Seriously, they can't." Without batting an eye, I said, "Oh, then maybe I'm just bad at physics." The floating comments could hardly bear to watch. This supporting guy is such a pervert. His fingers have traced her collarbones 3 times, and he still hasn't finished measuring. Supporting guy, do you even know how to measure them? Let me do it for you. I'm seriously pissed. Supporting guy, stay away from our supporting girl. I'm going to keep touching her. Stay mad. My gaze involuntarily fell on Serena's hand again. Her skin was very fair as she gripped my wrist tightly. Her fingernails glowed a healthy pink, so delicate, and with her standing this close, I could smell the faint cool fragrance on her body. The longer I looked, the drier my mouth became. How had I never realized before that I had so little self-control? Perhaps my gaze was too intense, because Serena cleared her throat and reminded me, "Alex, there are a lot of people here. Watch yourself." Serena and I were sitting in a secluded corner, but quite a few classmates were still casting curious glances our way. I slapped my thigh and nodded solemnly. "You're right. Let's go to a hotel. There won't be as many people there." The floating comments exploded. "Holy shit. Supporting guy, have you no shame? Have you never seen a woman before? You're already trying to drag the supporting girl to a hotel." Trust me, Serena will definitely save herself for the male lead. Exactly, Serena is only playing with the supporting guy. She'll definitely turn him down. A hotel? Serena repeated the words, her usually icy eyes now filled with disbelief. I nodded again. Hesitation appeared on Serena's face. "Isn't that a little too fast? How is it too fast?" I grumbled inwardly. I was only interested in her because she was gorgeous and I wanted a taste. Did she seriously expect me to develop feelings for her, too? We're already boyfriend and girlfriend. It's bound to happen sooner or later. What are you going to do? Wind me up and leave me hanging? You'll date me, but won't let me touch you. I reluctantly withdrew my hand, then declared with great dignity, "In that case, let's break up." I didn't want a woman who only made empty promises. Break up? I don't agree. Serena tilted her head slightly to look up at me. There was a stubborn resolve in her cool, aloof eyes. She looked surprisingly imposing. I swallowed hard. Damn, why did she look even prettier with that stern expression? In the end, to keep me from breaking up with her, Serena still left the party with me. As for the floating comments, they had already dissolved into hysterical wailing. Chapter 2. The Sweet and the Benefactor. Before leaving, Serena made a point of telling Julian. Julian was the male lead, and at that moment, he was pestering Chloe to play truth or dare with him. When Chloe saw Serena and me leaving together, suspicion appeared on her face. "What's going on with you two?" Serena took the initiative to wrap her arms around mine, pressing herself tightly against me. She lifted her chin slightly and said with a hint of provocation in her eyes, "Chloe, Alex, and I are together now." Her implication was obvious. Chloe needed to keep her distance from me from now on. Holy shit! Julian rarely lost his composure. "Serena, are you actually serious about this?" When the floating comments saw the male lead, it was as though they had finally found hope. "Bro, hurry up and stop Serena. She's about to give herself to the supporting guy for your sake." "Exactly. Don't let that horny creep defile Serena. My brother. Protecting the supporting girl's virtue is all up to you now." Before Julian could speak, Chloe, the heroine, had already frowned in disapproval. "Didn't you two only meet today?" Serena turned her head and glanced at me. I couldn't help it. Alex is simply too charming. It was love at first sight for me. "What about you, Alex?" At that moment, my arm was experiencing her astonishing softness firsthand. I marveled inwardly again and again. So soft. She smelled so good. I couldn't resist leaning closer to her before saying, "I'm serious about Serena, too." Seeing that Chloe still wanted to say something, I hurriedly cut her off. "All right, Serena and I are leaving now. You and Julian can take your time chatting." Then I winked at Julian. "Good luck, Julian." Honestly speaking, I didn't dislike Julian. Julian and I were roommates, and we had always been extremely close. This time, he had noticed how stressed I was from my experiments, so he had practically dragged me to this party to help me unwind. After seeing the floating comments earlier, I understood that this might all be an act, but I still didn't blame him. Serena had ulterior motives, but I was no saint either. I was simply horny and interested in her pretty face and gorgeous body. In a way, the two of us were actually quite well matched. Chapter 3. A Night to Remember. I took Serena to the best 5-star hotel in the area and booked the presidential suite. It cost $88,000 a night, and she paid with her card. I had thought this through very carefully. She could deceive my feelings, but she couldn't swindle me out of my already meager living allowance. Before heading upstairs, I stopped by a convenience store and bought 2 boxes of supplies. While she was looking down and unlocking the door, I quietly slipped the large-size 001 condoms into my pocket and felt slightly more at ease. The floating comments were already flooding the screen like crazy. "Damn, the supporting guy is feasting tonight." Come to think of it, the supporting guy has a pretty good physique too. So why exactly are we opposing a romance between 2 gorgeous people? Because the supporting guy doesn't love Serena at all. He only wants her body. Exactly. Our devoted supporting girl deserves better. Soon, I no longer had time to pay attention to the comments. The moment the hotel door opened, I impatiently pressed Serena against it and lowered my head to kiss her. My other hand wasn't idle either, wrapping around her slender waist. I could feel Serena's body tense instantly before even her breathing became rapid. The next second, Serena pressed a hand against my chest. There was a barely perceptible tremble in her voice. "Alex, do you know what you're doing right now?" I replied confidently, "Of course. I'm sleeping with my girlfriend." My nose was filled with her cool fragrance, and once again, I was in heaven. "If you touch me, you'll have to take responsibility for me." She gazed at me, her usually cool and distant eyes misty, concealing something I couldn't understand. I couldn't be bothered to figure it out. Other than satisfying my desires, I wasn't willing to invest a single bit of emotion in her. I answered without hesitation, "Don't worry, I'll take this relationship exactly as seriously as you do." The moment I finished speaking, I lowered my head and kissed her again. Her responses were inexperienced, and she even stepped on my feet several times. It suddenly occurred to me that this might have been Serena's first kiss. But soon, I could no longer think about any of that. Chapter 4. The Aftermath and Academic Pursuits. 1 hour later, I felt fantastic from head to toe. 2 hours later, my legs were starting to feel weak. 5 hours later, I was so exhausted that I passed out cold. When I woke up again, it was already the following morning. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw the floating comments streaming by with particular enthusiasm. How is it the next day already? I'm a distinguished premium member. What could there possibly be that I'm not allowed to see? Teach, what's there to see? Serena doesn't have feelings for the supporting guy. She must have lain there like a dead fish the entire time. A dead fish? Then why is the supporting guy's neck covered in red marks? Why does it look like Serena was really into it? Why did I get the feeling that Serena was actually a closet nymphomaniac? Remembering how wild things had gotten last night, I cringed so hard that my toes curled and my cheeks began to burn. Serena usually looked so cool and untouchable. Who would have thought that she could drain so much of my energy and take up so much time? At that very moment, the floating comments were still arguing endlessly. It was all an act. Serena had to do that to make the supporting guy completely devoted to her. You're right. After all, the supporting guy is so hopeless that all he wants is Serena's body. I feel so sorry for Serena. She sacrificed herself to this extent for the male lead's plan. Sacrificed herself? I glanced at Serena, who was asleep beside me. Even in her sleep, Serena was breathtakingly beautiful. Her long hair was tousled, making her look far less intimidating than she did during the day. She must have been having a wonderful dream, because the corners of her lips were slightly raised even as she slept, and both her arms were still wrapped tightly around my waist. For once, I disagreed with the floating comments. It seemed to me that Serena had thoroughly enjoyed herself, too. Last night, I had been too exhausted to move, but no matter how much I tried to reason with her, Serena refused to let me rest. She was like a little succubus who had gotten her first taste and immediately craved more. After that night, I felt completely refreshed. The experimental problem that had troubled me for ages suddenly inspired a new approach. Half an hour later, I rushed back to the laboratory and enthusiastically threw myself into my experiments, immediately forgetting all about Serena. Before long, Chloe arrived, too. She was surprised to see me. It's Saturday. I thought you wouldn't come in today. Without looking up, I adjusted the data and said, how could I stay away? The thing I care about most is right here. If I don't see it every day, I feel empty inside. I gazed lovingly at the data. Whether I could successfully graduate depended entirely on the results of these experiments. Chloe glanced out the window and smiled. Really? I sighed softly. Unfortunately, it doesn't love me back. But that was all right. Though my experiments tormented me 1,000 times over, I still treated them like my first love. Chloe teased. Then you clearly aren't working hard enough. I roll my eyes. And you've been working hard on your experiments? What have you gained besides increasingly dark circles under your eyes? My words seemed to strike a nerve. Chloe's expression darkened, and she buried herself in her experiments. She didn't speak to me for the entire morning. Chapter 5. Mind Games and Photos. Over the next few days, I was busy with my experiments and didn't contact Serena again. Serena probably thought she had completed the task Julian had given her, so she didn't contact me either. I had expected this from the beginning, so it didn't bother me. The floating comments began making sarcastic remarks. I knew this would happen. The only person in Serena's heart is the male lead. Why would she contact the supporting guy in private? The supporting guy isn't hiding under his blankets and secretly wiping away his tears, is he? In reality, if the comments hadn't kept reminding me of their presence, Serena wouldn't even have crossed my mind. It wasn't until my experiments hit another bottleneck that I finally thought of her. I couldn't help it. Whenever the pressure became overwhelming, I wanted to have a little fun and unwind. I sent her a message. Are you free anytime soon? It took Serena quite a while to reply with a single word. Busy. No problem. Carry on. Work comes first. I replied immediately, following it with another message. By the way, send me a picture of you wearing yoga pants. If I couldn't have the real thing, a picture would at least satisfy my cravings. Serena really did seem busy. I waited half an hour, but received no response. Just then, our professor called Chloe and me into a meeting, so I stopped checking my phone. When I opened it again 2 hours later, I had been bombarded with messages from Serena. Alex, do you have nothing else to say to me besides how much you want my body? I'll have you know that I'm not some easy woman. Why aren't you replying? Say something. Here's the picture you wanted. I just finished working out and snapped it casually. It'll have to do. In the photo, Serena was sitting on a yoga mat in tight black yoga pants and a sports bra. Her slender waist was exposed, her abs clearly defined, while her long legs made it impossible to look away. Once again, a pathetic stream of drool accidentally escaped from the corner of my mouth. The floating comments appeared. If I hadn't watched Serena spend half an hour touching up her makeup and change into 3 different outfits just to show off her figure better, I might have believed her. And that's not all. She took more than 30 pictures from different angles and in different locations before finally choosing this one. Serena, if you put this much effort into everything, there's nothing you couldn't accomplish. I chuckled inwardly. Ha, what a little faker. After admiring Serena's photo for a full minute, I continued scrolling through her messages. Are you not replying because you're using my picture to do something dirty, aren't you? Alex, what exactly goes on inside that head of yours? I've thought about it, and this is partly my fault. You have needs, and there's no reason for me to make you suffer like this. Here's the address and door code to my apartment. I'm busy, so I'll only wait half an hour. Where are you? After that, Serena said nothing else. She merely continued sending workout photos taken from various angles. Chapter 6. Cash and Misunderstandings. Half an hour had long since passed. Even so, I still headed to her apartment. Serena had clearly set her mind on seducing me, so she would definitely be there waiting. When I arrived downstairs at the apartment building, I received another message from Serena. Sorry, Alex. Something came up, and I won't have time to see you today. I watched Julian's retreating figure as he entered the apartment building and immediately understood what was happening. The floating comments appeared again. Haha, I won't say who the clown is. That's our Serena. Our devoted supporting girl will help the male lead, but she'll never be the supporting guy's toy. The supporting guy must be devastated. Serves him right for touching what never belonged to him. I paid no attention to their sarcastic mockery. Most people would probably love to have a wealthy heiress toy with their feelings. They simply never got the opportunity. But I did, and I seized it. I slept with the campus belle on the very day we got together. Since I only wanted her body and hadn't invested any feelings in her, I couldn't have been less upset. What Serena did next delighted me even more. She probably felt guilty because before long, she sent me a transfer of $10,000 and told me not to be angry with her. I slapped my thigh and immediately accepted it, then replied considerately, "It's all right. Important matters come first." The floating comments continued making snide remarks. Oh, look at the supporting guy forcing himself to smile. How pitiful. The supporting guy can't have Serena's heart, so all he gets is her cold, hard cash. The supporting guy must hate the male lead to death. It can't be helped. Our Julian is simply that charming. Pitiful? I felt like I was living the dream. Not only had I slept with the campus belle without spending a penny, but she was even giving me money afterward. How could anything this wonderful exist in the world? As for Julian, I genuinely didn't hate him. It was thanks to my good buddy that I had landed such a feast. I was enjoying plenty of sexual bliss right now, and I hoped Julian could find happiness too. When I saw Julian entering the apartment building earlier, he had looked utterly dejected. It wasn't difficult to guess that Chloe had done something to wound his pride again. Julian had always been secretly in love with Chloe. It was perfectly normal for him to seek comfort from his good friend Serena when he was upset. The floating comments had also mentioned that Serena had always remained only good friends with Julian and had never confessed any romantic feelings to him. I wasn't the slightest bit worried that they might cross the line. Chapter 7. The Sweet Rewards of Duty. Julian returned to the dorm that evening. Out of nowhere, he asked whether there was anything I particularly wanted lately. Of course there was. I had been using my crappy laptop since freshman year. Whenever I loaded a larger data model, it lagged so badly that everything moved like a slideshow. I was planning to buy an Alienware gaming laptop once I had saved enough money. The very next day, Serena gave me the newest, highest-spec Alienware gaming laptop. I immediately understood. Julian was helping Serena win me over. The more I liked Serena, the more distance I would naturally keep from Chloe. That would give Julian a better chance of getting together with Chloe, and he wouldn't have to end up heartbroken like he had yesterday. Though recently, I had already begun distancing myself from Chloe without even realizing it. I accepted Serena's gift without the slightest burden on my conscience. Then I pulled her into my arms and kissed her hard. Serena, I really do love you more and more every day. Sweet talk cost nothing, so I could say as much of it as I wanted. The corners of Serena's lips lifted slightly. If you truly love me, then reply to my messages promptly from now on. I nodded as rapidly as a chicken pecking at grain. Absolutely. I only failed to reply promptly yesterday because I was in a meeting. What about before that? Why had you never sent me a single message first? Serena's tone was calm, but I could tell that she was calling me to account. I smiled and said, "Don't worry. From now on, I'll message you every day." And so, the first thing I did every morning after waking up was send Serena a message. You there? Let me see your abs. You there? Let me see your legs. You there? Let me see your boobs. As speechless as Serena was, she still sent me pictures. I had to admit that waking up to photos of a gorgeous woman's body put me in a good mood for the entire day. So I showered her with all kinds of compliments every day and pretended to be utterly bewitched by her. Serena clearly enjoyed it too. In the days that followed, I took full advantage of Serena. Whenever I felt stressed, I went to see Serena. Whenever my experiments hit a bottleneck, I went to see Serena. Whenever my advisor scolded me, I went to see Serena. Eventually, Serena noticed that something was wrong because I started putting my hands on her the moment I saw her. Alex, I can't help feeling that you're treating me like some kind of outlet for your urges. My eyes widened in astonishment. Serena, how could you think that? You're no mere tool. You're my darling girlfriend. Heaven was my witness. I had never treated Serena like a sex worker. After all, hiring one would cost money. Serena lowered her eyes slightly and studied me suspiciously. Really? I gave her the same answer as always. Of course, I'm exactly as sincere toward you as you are toward me. My words immediately placated Serena, and she took out the gift she had prepared for me. Come to think of it, Serena had given me quite a few nice things recently. A graphics card, sneakers, and a mechanical keyboard. When choosing gifts, she only cared whether they were expensive, not whether they were suitable. If I hadn't known that Serena was doing all this for Julian's plan, I might genuinely have thought that she had fallen in love with me. But now, I merely felt that I had earned it all through my own abilities. Once Serena broke up with me, I would be left all alone in my empty room with nothing but this expensive equipment to keep me company. How pitiful I would be. That was why, after putting up a little polite resistance, I always accepted everything with a smile. The floating comments remarked, "The supporting guy is such a hypocrite. He says he feels bad, but no one accepts gifts faster than he does. I'm seriously jealous. How does the supporting guy get laid and walk away with gifts too? I'm not jealous of the male lead anymore. He keeps throwing himself at the heroine and has suffered every torment love can offer." Meanwhile, not only is the supporting guy feasting, but he's also received so many gifts that he's practically numb to them. Chapter 8. Exposing the heroine. Speaking of Julian, I honestly felt that he deserved better. Chloe might have excellent grades and be fairly attractive, but she was far too complicated and contradictory. She had a father addicted to gambling and a sick mother. Julian tried every possible way to give her money. Not only would Chloe refuse, but she would always look deeply humiliated and accuse him of insulting her by throwing money at her. Yet despite what she said, whenever she genuinely couldn't afford her mother's medical bills, she would still accept Julian's money. The floating comments greatly admired this behavior. As expected of our strong, independent heroine, even though her life is so difficult, she has never thought about relying on a man. Julian has excellent taste. He fell for our resilient and innocent heroine. From my perspective, Chloe was taking the benefits while still acting aggrieved. That alone would have been fine, but whenever Chloe argued with Julian, she would drag me into it. "Julian, why can't you learn from Alex? He's so much more mature than you. He would never try to humiliate me with money. He's also far more ambitious than you. He devotes almost all his time to his studies, unlike you, who spends every day obsessing over romance." In the past, I had been so focused on my experiments that I never paid attention to Chloe and Julian's conversations. Now that I had started listening, I suspected that comments like these were precisely what had given Julian the mistaken impression that Chloe might like me. It didn't feel right to think this badly of Chloe when we spent so much time together, but I genuinely didn't believe she liked me. It seemed far more likely that she was using me to belittle and emotionally manipulate Julian. So when Chloe once again used me to put Julian down, I couldn't resist speaking up. "Wait a minute, Chloe. I don't humiliate you with money because, first of all, I'm broke too. Second, I can't bear to spend money on women. As for being ambitious, studying is my only path to a better life. If I were as rich as Julian, I'd have at least 7 or 8 girlfriends." The floating comments mocked me. No wonder he's only the supporting guy. He's greedy and lustful without a single redeeming quality. I feel so sorry for our Serena. She's actually dating such a shallow and uncultured man. But I don't think the supporting guy said anything wrong. If I were rich, I'd date a different model every day. That's not the point. The point is that the supporting guy is defending the male lead. I'm siding with the supporting guy this time. Me too. The male lead did nothing wrong. The heroine is simply too proud and rejected his kindness. After hearing my words, Julian forcibly swallowed his grievance. His expression seemed to ask, "Is that really true? Did I actually do nothing wrong?" As for Chloe, her face darkened further with every sentence I spoke. Finally, she declared righteously, "Alex, you don't need to demean yourself just to comfort Julian when he's the one who did something wrong. If someone can't recognize his own mistakes, he'll never correct them." I was more than a little speechless. "Chloe, as far as I'm concerned, Julian's biggest mistake was falling for you. If Julian gave that money to anyone else, he would at least get them to call him daddy in gratitude. Chapter 9. The Masochist Strategy. I casually said, "By the way, Julian, if Chloe won't take your money, you can give it to me. I love it when people humiliate me with money." Julian shook his head vigorously. "No, I can't do that to you." I couldn't hold it in anymore. One look at Julian, and I could tell Chloe had been manipulating him for far too long. After thinking for a moment, I leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Actually, I'm a masochist." Julian's eyes widened. I looked at him earnestly. "It's true. The more you humiliate me with money, the happier I am." Julian cautiously asked, "Does Serena know about this?" "Of course she does." I deliberately trailed off, winked at him, and gave him a knowing look. He grabbed my wrist and pointed at the red marks on the back of my hand. "So these are her handiwork, too?" Serena had accidentally scratched me last night when she got carried away. However, to stop my good buddy from being controlled by Chloe, I silently apologized to Serena and replied, "You could say that." Julian sucked in a sharp breath, looking as though he had just discovered that Serena was a terrifying she-devil. The floating comments also filled with question marks. Do the supporting guy and supporting girl really get that kinky in private? Really? I don't believe it unless you let me watch. Damn it. I'm a premium member. I want to see the whole thing. Whether the comments believed me didn't matter. Julian certainly did. "My brother, I'll humiliate you with money right now, but stop playing those dangerous games with Serena. Your health is more important." As he spoke, he forcibly shoved the card Chloe had thrown onto the table into my hand. Chloe strongly disapproved. "Julian, humiliating me is one thing, but what gives you the right to humiliate Alex?" Julian hesitated, probably to protect my privacy. He ultimately said only, "Alex is different from you." As Julian was leaving, I called after him enthusiastically, "Julian, whenever you feel like humiliating Chloe with money in the future, come find me instead. That way, Chloe gets the respect she wants and I get the pleasure I want. Everybody wins." The floating comments were filled with admiration. "The supporting guy's idea is absolutely brilliant. This is the most I've ever supported him. Now the male and female leads can finally have a proper relationship. Now I'm genuinely jealous. The supporting guy got the campus belle's body, and the male leads money. What kind of jackpot life is he living?" Chloe, however, looked deeply disappointed. "Alex, I was completely wrong about you. I never imagined you were such a shallow person." I rolled my eyes. "Good for you. You're so noble and above it all. But didn't you still end up taking Julian's money?" "That's not what happened. You really are different from me. You're more hypocritical." I stopped looking at Chloe's flushed face and returned to my experiments. The floating comments remarked, "Why do I feel like the supporting guy is right? The heroine wants all the benefits while still pretending to be a saint. What do any of you understand? The heroine keeps rejecting the male lead precisely because she has strong principles. If she really were only after his money, you'd all be complaining about that instead. But didn't she accept his money in the end? That's because the heroine has feelings for the male lead. She would never accept money from anyone else. I'm not sure yet. Let me keep watching." Chapter 10. The Thigh Chain. In the days that followed, whenever Julian felt the urge to help Chloe financially, he would use that money to humiliate me instead. Not only that, but whenever Serena asked me to get a hotel room with her, Julian would also humiliate me with money. He never forgot to remind me, "Your health is important. Stop fooling around with Serena so much." My research hadn't been too stressful lately. Besides, while the campus belle might have to suffer a little, I certainly couldn't let my wallet suffer. So I agreed without hesitation. In just one short month, I became a loaded man. Everything had been going my way lately. But Chloe's life wasn't nearly as pleasant. Because Julian had stopped humiliating her with money, she could no longer afford her mother's medical bills. The hospital's payment collection calls soon began coming directly to her phone. The way she looked at me also became increasingly hostile. "Alex, are you satisfied now that you've seen me reduced to this?" I was completely baffled. "You're the one who refused Julian's money. What the hell does that have to do with me? If you hadn't interfered, how would I have ever?" Chloe stared at me darkly. "In any case, Alex, if you won't let me live in peace, then I won't let you live in peace either." The floating comments filled with question marks. Would the heroine really say something like that? Why does it feel like she's completely out of character? There's nothing wrong with what the heroine said. If the supporting guy hadn't interfered, none of this would have happened to her. She was too proud to accept the male lead's kindness. What does that have to do with the supporting guy? I believe the heroine isn't a bad person at heart. She merely spoke without thinking. I had a strong sense of self-preservation. Although the floating comments claimed that Chloe had merely spoken in anger, the malice in her eyes looked very real to me. I immediately hired a private investigator to follow her and monitor her every move. If she did anything suspicious, the investigator would inform me. I had thought this through carefully. I was still young, hadn't slept with the campus belle nearly enough, and hadn't finished spending my money. I certainly couldn't afford to die young. Just as Serena crossed my mind, she sent me a message. It was a photo of her fresh out of the shower. In the picture, she had just finished bathing and was wrapped in nothing but a white towel. Large expanses of her cool, pale skin and delicate collarbones were exposed. Droplets of water slid down her slender neck, making the sight exceptionally tempting. I couldn't help swallowing. Recently, Julian had been giving me so much money that I had repeatedly turned down Serena's invitations. Once she realized I was a horny bastard, she started relentlessly sending me pictures. After thinking for a moment, I messaged her. "Where are you?" Serena told me that she was at her apartment, so I rushed over immediately. When Serena saw me, she gave me a cool glance and spoke in an icy tone. "So you still remember that you have a girlfriend? I've just been busy. You're still in my heart." As I spoke, I took out a box. "You've given me so much equipment, so this time I prepared something for you." Serena's expression softened slightly, but the moment she opened the box, her face darkened again. "Alex, this is the gift you brought me? What? You don't like it?" I spent ages choosing it. I had picked out a delicate silver thigh chain for Serena. It would look absolutely lethal wrapped around her long, straight, snow-white thigh. I had thought it through carefully. I wasn't going to spend a fortune on a woman with ulterior motives. As long as I didn't invest any feelings, I wouldn't be heartbroken when we eventually separated. The only exception was when I spent money on her, but ended up being the one who benefited. Seeing how crushed I looked, Serena hurriedly said, "It's not that I dislike it. I just feel like every time you come to see me, sex is the only thing on your mind. It seems as though you only want my body and don't have any real feelings for me." I grumbled inwardly. She really did have ulterior motives. It wasn't enough for her to deceive me into giving her my body. She wanted my heart, too. However, I didn't let any of those thoughts show. "That's only because your body is too incredible. I was never like this before." Serena didn't fall for my diversion and asked, "If you find my body so incredible, why have you repeatedly turned down my invitations lately?" "I've been overwhelmed with my studies. Look, I came to see you as soon as I finished." Imitating the manipulative coquette from television dramas, I added disappointedly, "We finally get to see each other, and you insist on arguing with me." This was called beating a pretentious coquette at her own game. Seeing my disappointment, Serena stopped arguing with me as expected and willingly put on the thigh chain. The sight of her sent a rush of blood through me. Serena had cool, porcelain-white skin, and the silver chain encircling her firm thigh looked incredibly sensual. Its edges pressed slightly into her flesh, making her look both untouchably aloof and irresistibly tempting. "Serena, it looks amazing on you. Don't take it off tonight." I reached out and stroked her thigh. Her cool, pale skin instantly flushed faintly pink, leaving my mouth dry. Just as I was about to continue, Serena seized the initiative and pushed me onto the sofa, completely pinning me beneath her. By the end, all I could remember was that her body had been burning hot while the thigh chain remained icy cold. Whenever it brushed against my leg, it sent another wave of heat surging through me. I asked her to take it off, but she merely laughed between soft gasps. "Alex, I promised you I'd wear it all night. I can't break my word." Looking into her dark, unfathomable eyes, I suddenly realized that Serena might not be as innocent or agreeable as I had imagined. All I could do was passively endure every pleasure she gave me. Chapter 11. The Secret Behind the Book. By the time I woke up, it was already noon the next day, and I felt fantastic from head to toe. I had to give Serena credit for one thing. Whether in bed or out of it, her stamina was absurdly good. The aromas of coffee and sandwiches drifted to my nose. Serena was presumably busy preparing food. Bored, I picked up my phone and discovered that the private investigator had sent me a video. In the footage, Chloe stood by a stairwell and said to a young man, "Lucas, I really have no other choice. Lend me some money to tide me over. I promise I'll pay you back in a couple of days." Some of the floating comments became curious. Isn't that the villainous supporting character? Why has he appeared so early this time? If I remember correctly, he only entered the heroine's life after the male lead died in a car accident. He gradually healed her when she was devastated by grief. Don't tell me the heroine is already cheating with the villain before she has even officially gotten together with the male lead? Impossible. The heroine is completely devoted to the male lead. She isn't that kind of person. Faced with Chloe's request for help, Lucas looked puzzled. Chloe, hasn't that rich heir named Julian been giving you money lately? Don't even mention it. My junior labmate interfered and ruined everything. Chloe gritted her teeth when she spoke about me, then told Lucas what had happened. You know, I only said those things to keep Julian under my control. Otherwise, he might think his family's wealth gives him the right to boss me around. I never expected Julian to listen to my junior labmate and stop falling for my tactics. And for some reason, my junior has also been very distant toward me lately. Without feeling threatened by him, Julian no longer spends all his time and attention on me. But don't worry, Julian is hopelessly in love with me. I have ways to bring him back under my control. Sooner or later, I'll marry him and get my hands on his family fortune. Once that happens, I'll return to you. You know that from beginning to end, the person I've truly loved has always been you, the boy who grew up with me in the orphanage. After hearing this, the floating comments filled with question marks. So the heroine really is a toxic woman? Why is this completely different from what the book says? Has the heroine been possessed by someone else? No, I think this is her true nature. Have you all forgotten? The heroine wrote this book after the male lead died to commemorate him. Since she wrote it herself, of course she portrayed herself in the best possible light. Now I suspect the male lead's car accident wasn't an accident at all. The heroine probably arranged it. This whole thing was an elaborate romance scam. Thank you, supporting guy. If he hadn't interfered, I would still be sobbing over the male and female lead's supposedly beautiful love story. This revelation didn't just dumbfound the floating comments. Even I was stunned. If Chloe had fabricated the contents of this book, then perhaps Serena hadn't approached me for Julian's sake at all. Maybe she had simply wanted to date me. I could tell that Chloe harbored a subtle jealousy towards Serena. Even though she concealed it well, Chloe resented the unfairness of life. She struggled to cover her mother's living expenses, while Serena possessed everything she wanted. Since Chloe had written the book, she could naturally slander Serena however she pleased. The floating comments reached the same conclusion. I suspect the supporting girl is genuinely dating the supporting guy. She never deceived him at all. The heroine deliberately smeared her reputation. After all, the supporting girl is beautiful, wealthy, and kind. With a woman like that around the male lead, there's no way someone as bitter and twisted as the heroine wouldn't be jealous. Now that you mention it, I remember the supporting girl carrying a high school photo of the supporting guy in her wallet. At first, I thought she was only making her act more convincing. Looking back, she might have had a secret crush on him since high school. Holy shit, is this a secret crush romance? I'm ready to start shipping the supporting couple. Just between us, I started shipping them ages ago. Chapter 12. Cleared Misunderstandings. What are you thinking about so seriously? I called you to eat, but you didn't even respond. Serena's voice suddenly came from above me. When I looked up, she was gazing at me gently. Thinking about how I had treated her lately, together with the conclusions I had just reached, I felt an unprecedented flicker of guilt. However, I didn't regret anything. Who would regret sleeping with a gorgeous, wealthy heiress? I handed Serena my phone. Watch this first. A friend sent it to me. After watching the video, Serena's cool brows drew together slightly. She turned and went onto the balcony to call Julian. When she returned a short while later, her expression was noticeably more relaxed. Alex, this video came at the perfect time. No matter how stubbornly single-minded Julian is, even he should finally come to his senses after seeing this. That was good. I couldn't bear watching my good buddy get treated like an ATM before being bled completely dry. Serena suddenly changed the subject. After watching that video, you've come to your senses too, haven't you? Me? I pointed at myself. I never had feelings for Chloe. So what exactly am I supposed to come to my senses about? Serena studied me suspiciously. Really? Because I distinctly remember that after you slept with me that day, you rushed straight to the laboratory without a word. Then you told your Chloe that if you didn't see her every day, your heart felt empty. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was talking about my experiment, not that scheming woman Chloe. Wait, were you there that day too? Serena's voice became slightly subdued. Yes, I had reserved a table at a restaurant and planned to take you out for lunch, but when I reached the laboratory door, I heard. She didn't finish, but I already understood what she meant. No wonder Chloe had suddenly glanced toward the window and smiled strangely while we were talking that day. Serena had probably stormed off after hearing only half the conversation. Otherwise, she would never have misunderstood me so badly. So that's why you didn't message me for several days. Serena looked slightly uncomfortable, and a faint blush appeared on her fair cheeks. That's right. I have my pride, too. I wasn't going to throw myself at my boyfriend when I knew there was already someone else in his heart. The floating comments remarked, Girl, you're still stubbornly denying it. All I remember is that the supporting guy asked for one photo of you in yoga pants, and you took over 30 before instantly bombarding him with messages. Look how damn bad you are. And that's not all. After learning that the supporting guy was coming over, she even searched online for what to wear to attract her boyfriend. 8 out of the last 10 times she saw him, she wore tight clothes that showed off her figure. I understand now. That time, the supporting guy took ages to reply, so Serena thought he was merely playing with her. That was why she comforted Julian when her heartbroken childhood friend was falling apart. After all, she had promised Julian's parents that she would look after him while they were away from home. It also gave her a way to save face. The supporting guy hadn't rejected her, something had simply come up so they couldn't meet. So when Serena started showering the supporting guy with money afterward, it wasn't part of some plan to win him over. She was hoping he would stay with her for the money. When you put it that way, Serena is hopelessly in love with him. Chapter 13, Truths and High School Memories. I scratched my head in confusion. Serena, when did you start liking me? I thought carefully about it. We had barely interacted before this. So why had she suddenly become so devoted to me? In high school, we weren't in the same class, but we participated in several volunteer activities together. You probably don't remember, but I tried talking to you a few times. You were always busy, though. In high school, you were busy studying. In college, you were busy earning certifications. In graduate school, you were busy conducting experiments. Serena paused before continuing. We were both about to graduate. If I didn't confess soon, I would lose my chance. So I asked Julian to organize that party. I never imagined my confession would go so smoothly, or that you would be so forward. The floating comments appeared again. Supporting guy, do you really love studying that much? I thought you only loved beautiful women. I judged you too narrowly. Supporting guy, you're not only greedy and lustful, you're ambitious too. Does anyone else find it hilarious that the supporting guy loved studying so much that he completely missed the supporting girl's feelings for all those years? Then why did he suddenly accept her confession this time? Wasn't he afraid that dating would delay his experiments? Honestly, I had the floating comments to thank for that. When Serena first confessed to me, I had been amazed by her beauty, but I still planned to reject her. As far as I was concerned, dating cost too much money and took too much time away from my studies. Then I saw the floating comments. I mistakenly believed that Serena had ulterior motives, so I accepted immediately, planning to have a purely physical relationship without investing my heart. But now that the misunderstanding had been cleared up, everything had changed. Facing Serena's normally cool gaze, now filled with deep affection, I slapped my thigh and declared, because I truly like you a whole lot. I was so obsessed with my experiments before that I neglected you a little. Don't worry, from now on, I'll cherish every single second we spend together. This time, I genuinely meant every word. After all, who wouldn't love a dream girlfriend who was wealthy, gorgeous, had an incredible figure, and was completely devoted to him? Most importantly, my thesis data was complete, and I was about to graduate. Dating wouldn't interfere with my job search or making money at all. Chapter 14. Confronting the Fabrications. With the misunderstanding resolved, my relationship with Serena progressed smoothly. Chloe, however, began stirring up trouble. She arranged to meet Julian, and the first thing she did was tell him to distance himself from me. Julian, I know you consider Alex your brother, but he might not feel the same way. He knows that you have feelings for me, yet lately he has repeatedly flirted with me, both openly and subtly. You should also tell your friend Serena about this. Otherwise, she'll remain completely in the dark and continue devoting herself wholeheartedly to Alex. The floating comments erupted in anger. Has the heroine completely abandoned her dignity? I can't believe she would fabricate a lie like this. What a vicious attempt to sow discord. If Julian believes her, not only will he stop humiliating the supporting guy with money, but Serena might even break up with him. Julian glanced at Chloe. You say he flirted with you. Do you have any evidence? Chloe froze. She had never imagined that Julian, who had always been her simp, would one day question her. You know what kind of person I am, don't you? Chloe had come prepared. She took out an audio recording and a blurry video. In the video, I was confessing my feelings to her in a slick, flirtatious manner. I even claimed that an heiress like Serena was too cold and aloof to suit me, while Chloe was gentle and resilient, making her the perfect woman for me. The moment Julian watched the video, he laughed in fury. The floating comments became anxious. Julian, wake up. That scheming woman fabricated the video. Our supporting guy has extremely high standards. He would never fall for Chloe's fake innocent act. Once I stopped viewing the heroine through rose-colored glasses, I suddenly realized how ordinary she is. Exactly. The only thing that ever made the heroine special was that the male lead was blind enough to fall for her. Julian should thrive on his own now. Chloe, you toxic woman. Stay far away from him. Chloe was still looking smug when Julian picked up the iced Americano on the table and threw it directly in her face. Chloe screamed and frantically grabbed some napkins to wipe herself. Julian, have you lost your mind? I must have lost my mind to fall for a hypocritical gold digger like you. You think the video is fake? Isn't that obvious? My brother likes women with incredible figures. Women who are exceptionally beautiful, generous toward him, and completely drama-free. Look at yourself in the mirror. Which one of those qualities do you possess? Anyone with half a brain can tell that video was generated by AI. The floating comments sighed in relief. Thank goodness our Julian has finally come to his senses and stopped being a simp. Chloe was extremely proud. Hearing Julian's brutally honest words made her face alternate between pale and flushed. Is that what you truly think? That I'm inferior to Serena in every way? Before Julian could answer, Chloe's composure completely shattered. No, you're only saying that because you're angry. Otherwise, you wouldn't have chased after me like a dog for so long. I was blind back then. Just because you picked up my wallet for me once during freshman year, I assumed you were innocent and kind. Looking back, perhaps you had already marked me as an easy meal ticket. Julian stared at her coldly. Whatever was between us is over. I'll never appear before you again, so stay out of my sight, too. Looking at you makes me sick. Seeing Julian about to leave, Chloe hurriedly reached for his hand. She failed to grab him, and Serena stepped forward to knock her hand aside. Chloe stared at her in shock. What are you doing here? Then she noticed me standing behind Serena. Alex, when did you get here? I've been here the entire time. When Chloe invited Julian to meet her, he had asked Serena and me to come along. Julian had already decided to lay everything out in the open with Chloe. He would never be her sucker again. Chapter 15. The Downfall of a Manipulator. Considering Chloe's twisted personality, Julian suspected that she might resort to dirty tricks. So he asked Serena and me to come along. Even I hadn't expected Chloe to smear my reputation like this. Chloe, tell me, when exactly did I confess my feelings to you? Even now, Chloe stubbornly refused to admit the truth. You don't have the courage to admit what you did. Serena sneered and immediately produced the transaction records she had obtained showing that Chloe had purchased an AI voice cloning service. Chloe's expression changed dramatically. How did you get those? That isn't important. Serena's eyes were icy. From today onward, stay away from Alex and Julian. If I discover that you've tried to harm either of them again, don't blame me for what happens next. In fact, when Serena learned that Chloe had threatened to make my life miserable, she had used her family's connections to investigate her. By following the trail, she uncovered Chloe's entire AI forgery scheme. Faced with Serena's warning, Chloe became visibly wary, though her expression still contained intense resentment and humiliation. I said calmly, Chloe, you wouldn't want the entire university to learn that you're a scheming bitch who plots against people behind their backs, would you? If you try anything else, I'll cover every campus notice board with this evidence. Not just the chat records, but also the little scheme you devised with your childhood sweetheart Lucas. You know about that too. Chloe stared at me in shock, suddenly looking thoroughly defeated. She was more hypocritical than anyone and loved pretending to be morally superior. She couldn't bear the thought of someone publicly tearing away her disguise. More importantly, Chloe loved herself above all else. She valued her education and reputation more than her life, and would never allow any of this to destroy her promising future. Finally, Chloe gritted her teeth and spat out, "You win, Alex." Then she hurriedly fled the cafe like a beaten dog. I slapped Julian on the shoulder. Julian, have you gotten over it? Julian took a deep breath. I have. Thank you, brother. If you hadn't sent me that video and exposed Chloe's true nature, I would still be foolishly letting her use me as an ATM. He paused before continuing. I'm going abroad to take over my family's branch office. I want to get away from these toxic people and all this drama. My youth is officially over. Chapter 16. New Beginnings and Happy Endings. After that incident, Chloe indeed stopped causing trouble. The only exception was that whenever she saw me, Her gaze remained dripping with venom. Later, I graduated successfully and joined the prestigious company I had always wanted to work for. After that, our paths never crossed again. The next time I heard about Chloe was on the crime news. Chloe had married a wealthy man 20 years her senior. Not long after their wedding, the man was involved in a car accident. He survived and eventually discovered that Chloe had secretly tampered with his car. In response, he made sure Chloe was sent to prison. The floating comments appeared again. Damn. Now I'm certain that the male lead's car accident was never an accident. You scheming bitch, spend the rest of your life making license plates in prison. All I can say is that Chloe got exactly what she deserved. 3 years later, Serena and I got married. Julian and his new girlfriend even flew back from abroad specifically to attend our wedding. I could tell that his new girlfriend was straightforward and cheerful, and she had eyes for no one but him. This time, we both found our happy endings. The floating comments appeared one final time. It's over. Bring on the confetti. Just saying, I'm a distinguished premium member. Can you let me see the process this time? The story is already over, so surely we'll get some bonus content, right? Rubbing my hands together in anticipation. Damn it. Why did the lights go out again? Why is it so difficult to see a little action? See you in the next story. Chapter 17. A Lifetime of Bliss. A year after our wedding, life couldn't have been more peaceful or fulfilling. I had just received a major promotion at work after completing a high-profile data modeling project, while Serena's fashion design brand was expanding internationally. The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains of our master bedroom, casting a warm glow over Serena, who was resting her head on my chest. Her long hair was spread across the pillows, and the soft scent of her cool fragrance filled the room. I gently wrapped my arm around her waist, tracing light patterns on her back. Serena blinked her eyes open, a lazy, radiant smile spreading across her face. Morning, husband. Morning, beautiful. I leaned down, giving her a soft kiss on the lips. How are you feeling today? Pampered, she teased, trailing her fingers along my jaw. Though I wouldn't mind if my hard-working husband made us breakfast today. Your wish is my command. I laughed, slipping out of bed. While I was flipping pancakes in the kitchen, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was a video call from Julian. I answered it, placing the phone against a spice rack. On the screen, Julian was standing on a sunny balcony in Europe, holding hands with his glowing fiancée, Clara. Hey, Alex. Julian greeted cheerfully. Just calling to check in on you too. Clara and I just set our wedding date for next spring, and you and Serena better be the first ones on the plane. Count us in, brother. I smiled, seeing how truly happy and relaxed he looked. He was completely transformed from the stressed, emotionally drained guy I used to know in college. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Just then, Serena walked into the kitchen wearing one of my oversized silk shirts. She waved at the screen. Hi, Julian. Hi, Clara. Send us the registry details as soon as possible so we can send the best gift. After catching up and hanging out over the call, we said our goodbyes. Serena came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist and leaning her head against my shoulder as I finished setting the table. Suddenly, right in front of my eyes, those familiar floating comments flickered into view one last time. Faint, glowing, and completely celebratory. Look at our supporting couple living their absolute best life. I'm so emotional. Julian got his happy ending. Chloe is behind bars, and Alex and Serena are head over heels in love. Peak fiction. Can we talk about how Alex went from an overworked grad student to a rich, successful husband with a billionaire heiress wife? Bro won at life. Distinguished premium members signing off, wishing them endless happiness. I smiled softly to myself, completely at peace. The floating comments slowly faded away into nothingness, leaving behind only the vibrant, golden real world in front of me. I turned around in Serena's embrace, pulling her closer and looking deep into her dark, beautiful eyes. What are you thinking about? Serena asked, tilting her head with a tender look. Just thinking about how lucky I am, I said, genuinely kissing her forehead. I used to think my experiments were the best thing that ever happened to me, but choosing you was the absolute best decision of my life. Serena's eyes sparkled with joy, and she kissed me deeply. You didn't choose me, Alex. We chose each other. Hand in hand, we sat down to enjoy our morning together, ready to embrace every chapter of the long, beautiful future ahead of us.